in United States. My name is Dr. Adityanji, and I am the President of Council for Strategic Affairs. On behalf of the Council of Strategic Affairs, I invite all of you to our monthly roundtable discussion. Those of you who registered using our Eventbrite flyer probably saw this announcement, which lists the topic as well as our distinguished panelists. So today we are talking about India-US relations, geopolitics, geoeconomics, and Indo-Pacific. It's 10 a.m. Saturday, April 12th, and our distinguished speakers are Mr. Savio Rodigues, who joins from India, Mr. Dinesh Neelavar, Brigadier Arun Sahgal, and Ambassador Kanwal Sibal. Before we go on to the topic, a little bit of introduction about Council for Strategic Affairs. For those who are new to it, Council imparts education in the field of international relations. CSA fosters discussion, dialogue, and debate on geopolitical issues. Council encourages strategic studies in general to raise the level of awareness. CSA condemns terrorism in all its forms worldwide. We aim to contribute towards world peace and prosperity. CSA promotes people-to-people contacts and track to diplomacy. We are registered as a 501c3 organization with the IRS in USA. Those of our audience members who are based in USA, we request them to donate and support to CSA. The link is on our website. So we have a monthly roundtable discussion on second Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. Eastern Daytime. We have a monthly guest lecture by a domain expert, usually on third or fourth Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. We have a feature call, Strategically Speaking with Dr. Adityanji, which is one-on-one interview. The council organizes symposia, meetings, and conferences. We promote publication of articles on geopolitics and related subjects. We do have a summer internship program for college students, and we have a fellowship training program in strategic studies. And I'm very happy to say that currently we have two training fellows, Mr. Harsh Sinha and Ms. Khushi Mishra, who are undergoing this fellowship training program. Again, we are a 501c3 non-profit organization registered with IRS. So let me come to our distinguished panelists, Mr. Savio Rodigues, who sent me a wonderful picture with all the greenery. Mr. Savio Rodigues is an Indian journalist, entrepreneur, and social activist known for his outspoken views on political and social issues in India. He is the founder and editor-chief of Goa Chronicle, an online news portal on investigative journalism, often addressing topics that are overlooked by the mainstream media. Savio is recognized for his strong opinions, particularly in matters related to Indian politics, national security, and cultural identity. His work has been influential in bringing attention to controversial issues, and he is a vocal supporter of nationalistic causes. Additionally, Rodigues has been involved in various social initiatives advocating for transparency and accountability in government. Our second panelist is Mr. Dinesh Neelavar. And Dinesh Neelavar is an accomplished high-tech executive in the Silicon Valley in California. He's a regular contributor on geopolitics and global affairs. He has written articles on geopolitics and geoeconomics and has appeared on various seminars as a panelist. He is a keen observer of India-US relationship as it is unfolding in the global scene. He is a member of the American Indo-Pacific Forum, one of its directors. He has participated in CSA roundtable discussions before as well. And then we have Brigadier Arun Sahgal. You see his picture. Brigadier Arun Sahgal is a member of the International Advisory Board of the Council for Strategic Affairs, and we are very blessed to have his guidance and mentorship. He has a PhD degree in strategic studies. He has previously worked as a senior fellow at the Delhi Policy Group, a policy think tank focusing on international relations and national security. He was previously the founding director of the Office of Net Assessment, Indian Integrated Defense Studies, head of the Center for Strategic Studies and Simulation. He has worked with the United Services Institute of India. He was a senior fellow at Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis in New Delhi. He is involved in Track 2 and Track 1.5 dialogues on nuclear CBMs, among others. He has written several books, articles on geopolitics, and has been on various international and national platforms on geopolitics and international relations. And he has been on our platform multiple times as a distinguished speaker as well as a panelist for the panel discussions. And our final distinguished panelist is Ambassador Kanwal Sibal. Ambassador Sibal has been India's Foreign Secretary from July 2002 to November 2003. He has been India's ambassador to Turkey, Egypt, France, and Russian Federation. He was a member of National Security Advisory Board from 2008 to 2010. Ambassador Sibal is a postgraduate from St. Stephen College, New Delhi, and he has multiple, Doctor of Philosophy and honorary degrees from various institutions. He was the first Grand Doctor of Philosophy in India. He received the title of full professor from the European Academy of Informatization and the World Information Distributed University. Currently, from September 2023, Ambassador Sibal serves as the Chancellor of the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University. So that finishes our introduction of the panelists. Now we come to the roundtable discussion. The topic is India-US relations, geopolitics, geoeconomics, and Indo-Pacific. I'm not going to talk much about it, and I'll leave it to our panelists. Except for giving an introduction, everyone knows that President Trump's second term in the first few weeks has changed the geopolitical and geoeconomic discourse in the entire world. We are actually witnessing a global trade war with possibility of recession worldwide. The US visit of India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, in February has brought a number of synergies between US and India. The personal chemistry between the two leaders has been exceptional. After the visit, a 36-point joint communique was issued, and that's the reference. The continued bilateral cooperation between these two countries and fostering a multidimensional relationship has geoeconomics and geopolitical significance, not just for the Indo-Pacific region, but for the entire world. And we shall see what our distinguished panelists say. Before I invite our panelists, some housekeeping rules. Please mute yourself to avoid noise interference. Please change your cell phone to vibration mode. Please do not interrupt our esteemed panelists. Only those members of the audience who identify themselves will be allowed to ask questions. All the questions are moderated by the chat function. Please be specific in asking your question. Please do not send lengthy comments in the form of a monologue. We are recording this program. It's also being live streamed on our YouTube channel, and it'll be available on our website. For our US-based audience, we are registered as a 501c3 organization with the IRS in the US. Kindly support and donate to CSA. The link is on the website. Now we will start with our panelists. Each of our panelists will give an opening statement for 7 minutes each. And my humble request is please don't exceed the time, because then we won't have time for audience question and answer. After all the panelists have given their 7-minute opening statement, there will be a moderated discussion with questions from me to each of the panelists, and in the end, Q&A from the audience. So without further ado, I will invite our first distinguished panelist, Mr. Savio Rodigues. Savio, please unmute yourself and turn your camera on. The platform is yours. Kindly start, sir.
Namaste. It's a privilege to address you today on a matter of strategic importance, the evolving and increasingly consequential relationship between India and the United States, especially in light of President Donald Trump's return to the White House. Let me ask you this question. How many of y'all listening to this discussion today are aware of the Christopher Nolan's movie, The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight was based on the character of Batman. But it was not Batman that was applauded in the movie. It was a character called the Joker. Not too long ago, in an article on the Goa Chronicle, I had written an article stating very categorically that Donald Trump is the Joker. And I don't mean it in a bad way at all. It's a character that was made a legend by Heath Ledger, who then won a posthumous Oscar, was the life of that movie. Donald Trump is an unstoppable force, and the old world order is the immovable object. And while everyone might think that Donald Trump is the enemy, and rightfully so, because nobody understands why he does what he does, the Joker had also somebody that he aligned with and that he felt connected with. And that character came much later in another Joker movie, which was Harley Quinn, Dr. Harley Quinn. To me, in trying to explain the Indo-US relationship, for me, I see no better example than the relationship of the Joker and Dr. Harley Quinn, with the Joker being Donald Trump and the United States of America, and Dr. Harley Quinn being India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, why do I say that? Because to understand Donald Trump, you need to understand what drives Donald Trump. It is almost the same passion that drives Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but with a slight difference. Donald Trump talks about America first. Prime Minister Modi talks about India first. It is driven by an immense and strong patriotic belief, patriotism, nationalism for one's country, to put it above every other nation. For a very long period of time, the old world order was essentially about compromising in order to ensure that every other country benefits from relationships with different countries, while sometimes forgetting the importance of. However, now with Donald Trump, with Prime Minister Modi over the last decade, nationalism is taking a precedence, and with nationalism comes the focus in empowering your country, empowering the people in the country, and empowering political relationships as well. Today, everyone has been complaining, or rather having a critical opinion about Donald Trump's tariffs. Donald Trump's target is very clear. He's got two main targets in his mind that he's definitely wanting to shoot down. One is terrorism and Islamic radicalism, which is linked to Islamic terrorism. And the second is China's expansion attitude. That those are the only two main targets that he has. And above all that is make America great again. And in this war with China and with Islamic terrorism is where India has one of the greatest opportunities to establish itself as one of the most prominent global geopolitical player in the world. While many are talking about, the recession that is coming, no doubt that will happen. There will be a certain turmoil that will take place. But then every cancer that has to be removed will have its scar. Every struggle will have a light at the end of the tunnel. And it is those people and those nations who are strong enough to understand the wave that is being put at us and are able to ride that wave will be able to succeed. And that's where I think the Indo-US relationship is reached a point of further growth, further growth, further strengthening, and a great opportunity for us to work together. For example, with the tariffs that have been put on China, it opens the doors for India in areas of manufacturing, in areas of semiconductors, in areas of various technological advancements that will now not go to China, but have an option and an opportunity to come to India. It opens up doors for India to strengthen its relationship with the rest of the world. Because in most parts of the world, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Central Asia, whether it's in Asia, or whether it's in Africa, there is an immense push by China and its hegemony in most of these nations. Today, India has an opportunity with a very disruptive Donald Trump to actually ride that particular wave and come at the shore of the beach actually very successful if we are able to understand the wave that is coming. There will be a lot of negative perception created. The old world order will want you to believe that the world is coming to an end, that economies are going to crash. But it is actually going to be a cleanup of the socio-economic order that exists. I personally am not a huge fan of Donald Trump because, like Donald Trump, I also put India's interests first. And therefore, it is important for us as Indians to understand what is happening on a global scale at this point of time, particularly with the disruptions of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not attacking India. India is not the enemy of Donald Trump. Modi is not the enemy of Donald Trump. And neither is Trump the enemy of Prime Minister Modi. They are currently, post the visit of Prime Minister Modi to America, actually been in a position to further strengthen that relationship. Because Donald Trump knows, and Prime Minister Modi himself knows, that two people who are disruptive in nature can bring about a change in this world and bring about a new world order. And in that new world order, India will be in the top three without a doubt.
Thank you, Savio. Please conclude your opening statement.
So all I would like to say is that I started with a movie and I want to end it with an anecdote from a movie itself. The weakness of the Joker was Dr. Harley Quinn. The only person who could bend Joker to her will is Dr. Harley Quinn. And therefore, I believe that if there is one political leader in the world that can get Donald Trump to listen and to toe the line that is beneficial to India and other parts that interest India, it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you, everyone. for this opportunity. It was a privilege.
Thank you, Savio. Now we go on to our next panelist, and that is Mr. Dinesh Neelavar. Dinesh, platform is yours. Please confine yourself to 7 minutes only.
Okay, thank you, Aditya, and namaste, everybody. Great to be in this forum again. So let me start with the questions I got before the election and Trump becoming the president. So the question was, is Trump good for India? And because the other candidate, Kamala Harris, as Indian American, had a much closer relationship. So there was these questions and doubts coming to me. And then after the election, after he won convincingly, there was more questions. Will it be good for India because of the first term with a lot of differences and all that stuff. We saw all that stuff. So the question kept, remaining to me. And they asked me the same question. So in a seminar, I talked about it. I said, this time he's going to change the picture and there will be much better, Indo-USA relationship will go to a new heights and there is a new rise of India-USA relationship. And exactly that happened when Prime Minister visited Washington, D.C. in February, and then the statements from various leaders coming in after the event and after the summit. So there was a huge, huge positive outcome of that summit. The main interesting part is the as Dr. Jaishankar said, now the partnership has to be bolder, more global, and more comprehensive, and that is exactly what um, the Trump administration and both Indian administration were talking about. Much bigger during that summit, but nobody knew what the tariff was going to come in, which is going to change the picture. So uh, the from an India USA point of view, right now India is a trusted partner. So India USA Compact, India USA Trust, all the various initiatives which have been going on Indo-Pacific Quad, all these initiatives defense to the next level. So that is the best part. But the main problem for India was in terms of having a proper place in the world, global geopolitics and global geoeconomics area. So for that, India had to find a place and a path which would be less disruptive. Nobody understood how to go about it, and common people with the knowledge in the media were not uh, understanding how things would move forward. But with Trump taking this initiative of tariff and changing the bilateral relationship in trade with different countries of the United States, automatically changed the whole global world order. Now, how it impacts India is a key thing to understand. And India right now is sitting on a once in a lifetime opportunity to change the trading uh, and its relationship with the rest of the world, also with the United States, which is definitely going to happen. But in terms of opportunities, India is going to get around opportunity out of these tariff differences which are going to come in. That's only just after this particular tariff um, plan, but then there are a lot of negotiations going to happen. So at least $1.5 trillion will come as a business for India. But the next few years after that, India will be continuously getting every year more business in terms of trade, in terms of different opportunities in different areas. But the main thing is India is not going to be like China in terms of what it's going to trade. So India has a different plan, which other panelists can talk about it. But in terms of India-US relationship, the picture in which the 2 months of Trump, what he has done, has changed the opportunity for India in a completely new way. In rest of the world for India, as well as India is a bilateral relationship. So in terms of United States, if you look at where we are, see, I've been supporting Trump from 2015. So what we have seen is India is still a small player in the overall USA economic picture. It's leading in terms of tech industry, in some of the startup industries, but in terms of overall trade, India is a very small player. India's exposure in terms of GDP with USA is only like 2%. It's not much. And India's defense and other areas is still very small in terms of overall point of view. US relationship with other countries like the Europe, or we are talking about rest of Asia or in other countries. So in this area, India is going to see a graphically bigger picture and a big impact. Of course, it will take some time. There will be a lot of challenges and lot of obstacles. But I think right now India is going to be able to handle that, which was not, there was not a clear picture before, but now things are happening. And this is the clarity in which what Trump has brought in. This particular change which Trump has brought in terms of tariffs, is an opening in the world from the old order to a new order, which is happening as we see. But then this is only the first step. There is going to be a series of steps in the next 3 to 4 years. And how it will happen, maybe it's going to be a surprise for the rest of the world, but it's going to happen because the motion, the ball has started, and now it will result in series of changes. Now, how it will happen, I may be the least qualified to talk about it, but in terms of overall changes for Indo-USA relationship, in all aspects, in terms of defense, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of trade, in terms of other relationship, we are now in a uh, much higher plane, which was a surprise for many people who once Mr. President Trump was elected. But now we are in a great position to move forward. There is a much bigger optimism among the Indian Americans in terms of how India will be seen in the next 5 to 10 years. But from an India-USA position, India-USA trade, and a lot of other opportunities, there is a remarkable optimism among the people who are closely observing this relationship. So that from a conclusion point of view, I would say um, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity for India to move forward in terms of overall growth, also from a India point of view worldwide. And definitely this is going to be a year to remember anyway, because of the global change which is going to itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh, very much. Now it's my pleasure and honor to invite Brigadier Arun Sahgal. Sir, the platform is yours for your
Thank you. Thank you, Aditya. It's great to be back on your platform. In the allotted time, I'll just try to take a more realistic view of our of two issues which are of central to our discussion today. One is the Trump's Indo-Pacific policy, and the second issue is the India-US relations. Fundamental point that we need to understand is that the recent national threat assessment has defined CRINC, that is China, Russia, Iran and North Korea, as the central challenge to the American administration and American strategic ambitions. And number two is that in that the China is the core player whom they think will be a core challenger, who will be a competitor to the American. China is seen both as a geopolitical, strategic, military, and an economic competitor. Three issues are important. One, as far as when we look at the Indo-Pacific today, China's centrality and China's military modernization is absolutely strong. They are a much better position as a source of a dissuasive deterrence to the American power and influence in Asia. There has been a slight shift in the American position under the Trump administration. Biden administration was looking at collective security system by bringing together the East Asian allies, i.e. Japan, Australia, Philippines, North Korea, to prepare for a consolidated defensive posture. This thing is not there today. Today, the concern about the American allies is the nature of their relationship with the Trump administration, because Trump administration is unfolding a strategy which is loosely being termed as a spiral strategy. The spiral strategy basically looks upon the fact is that each of the allies will be responsible for its own security under the overarching umbrella of the United States. The images or the intentions coming out of the United States is that the United States does not want to militarily challenge China. There are a number of reasons. Time is not there, but fundamental reason is Americans are simply, as an offshore power, are not prepared and not have the capacity and the capability to fight the Chinese, which is a mainland power in Asia. So what they are talking about is what is called creating a dissuasive deterrence. In this issue of dissuasive deterrence, the entire focus of the United States administration is East Asia. IOR remains outside the purview of the American Indo-Pacific policy. This is something our people who are sitting in the United States need to understand. The area between the East China Seas and the Indian Ocean region, which is called the South China Sea loosely, there are a number of seas actually, but it's called the South China Sea area, is a buffer zone which is totally under the dominance of the Chinese. Therefore, the power and influence of the East Asia allies remains on the first island chain and now trying to muscle into the South China Sea through the Philippines. That's the state of play we have to understand. What does it mean for India? It basically means for India is that India has to manage its security on its own. So what is Trump offering in that issue? What the Trump administration has been offering, as indeed the Biden administration was offering, was more sales of weapon systems, advanced weapon system, and capacity building. Now, the issue both with advanced weapon system and capacity building is, as long as they are transactional relationships, they function very well. You sell, we buy under the FMS route, no question, no tenders, we go buy, and the weapon systems come. There again, we are facing a problem that engines are not coming. Out of the agreements which the Prime Minister reached on a 74-page joint statement in 23 visit, not more than 10% have moved forward. We have to be realists. Okay, so it's not that the administration is not wanting to move. Administration is not wanting to move forward. Just one. Administration is not wanting to move forward. It is just that the regulatory systems and the American administration internal rules that do not allow it to happen. On the issue of transfer of technologies, the ISET, which is now called the trust, very small movements are there. So when we are looking at the United States as a partner, where we are the most important player for the United States in the region, we are the more balancing power in the region. After all, after after China, if there is a strong Asian complete power, which has the economics, which has the trade, which has the manufacturing capabilities, which has the manpower and resources, technology, we are the players. And yet when it comes to functionality of our relationship, pushing things forward together, there is nothing happening. We're talking about a trade agreement. 2.5 years we spent in the previous administration to get this trade agreement. Now we are thinking about getting this trade agreement in a matter of 6 to 8 months. Yes, possible. But what will be the terms and conditions and what are the long-term consequences? We have to take cognizance of that, because the agreements will have to relate to the changing international system, where United States' role is still very much undefined. There is a regression of United States power, which is going back into the continental US. Their ability as an offshore power to fight 1, 2, or 3 theaters is getting limited. So what I'm trying to explain to you is this, is yes, we have great opportunity. Yes, it is like one seasoned economist today in Indian Express wrote, is the 1991 moment revisited when India have to break the shackles of constraints and reforms and to push forward. All that is true. But there are two fundamental problems. One fundamental problem is that when you go deep down into the American systems, there are within the administration, within the think tank concerns, will the old mindset of the Americans, how much do they want to accept India? And there is this whole concern of what I call an entrampment. The second issue is, are we ourselves ready to deal with the change that may be required? And what will be the geopolitical consequences of too close a relationship with the United States under the Trump administration, when we do not know what's going to happen 3 years down the line when there is a change in the American administration. So I think from India should be important for India to take a little long-term perspective of our relationship with the United States, see what are the deliverables, how they impact us, and then we should proceed forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Brigadier Sahgal, for painting a very realistic picture of India-US relations and opportunities, and a word of caution, a very sobering advice. Now it's my honor and pleasure to invite Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, who, if I may say, is probably the Dean of Indian diplomacy. He has been so active internationally with his viewpoints and opinion that are highly respected. So, sir, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adintyaji. Look, I think we are painting far too rosy a picture of India-US relations. I'm not talking about Brigadier Sahgal, who has been much more realistic in his thinking and views. First of all, we've been put on the defensive. Not only us, but the entire world has been put on the defensive. And we are reacting defensively. The manner in which we are now wanting to accelerate the multi-sector trade agreement is a clear indication that we don't want to get on the wrong side of Trump. It is essentially a defensive strategy. Now, it may partially succeed, it's possible, but the Americans have made it very clear, Lutnick has made it very clear, Greer has made it very clear that India has to make some very major concessions. It will not simply be the issue of tariffs. It will be also the non-tariff barriers. They're going to bring in issues of the IPRs. They are very, very demanding on agriculture. They want to look at the regulatory framework, which they want to be in consonance with the global benchmarks. So once you get into this, then you have to see what cards you have to play. Our IT sector is also worried, although of course there are no tariffs announced on the IT sector because we don't impose any tariffs on IT. but there's a fear that we will begin to lose additional contracts. And since by far the largest market of our IT industry is United States, it is causing a little, perhaps even a little panic about what lies ahead. Trump has also announced, although he's not so far done that he's going to impose tariffs on even pharmaceuticals. If he does that, it's going to be a big problem for us. So the point is that Trump has actually totally overturned the global trading system. The United States was a progenitor of the GATT and the WTO. And now America is actually wrecking what it itself created. And we are going back to unilateralism, where the United States, based on its own interests, will decide what it wants to do. And the Section 301 and everything else will come into play. There'll be no appeal to the WTO or dispute settlement mechanism or anything of the kind. The great advantage of WTO was that it had put some restraint on the arbitrariness of US power on the economic side, on the trade side. Now that unfortunately will no longer be the case. Now, since the United States is the biggest economy in the world, $31 trillion, it controls the global financial system. The dollar is the reserve currency of the world. It can sanction at will. It'll never get sanctioned in return. It has a lot of cards to play. And therefore, we have to factor that into account when we deal with the United States and how it treats the global system. I think if you look around, I would be surprised if you named one country which has welcomed what Trump has done. Even the closest allies of the United States are very concerned about what Trump has done and what the consequences would be for the global trading system. Now, there are studies which show that there will be a decline in global growth, substantial 3 to 7%, if I was reading somewhere, of global growth, which means more poverty, more difficulties for developing countries. All these SDG goals and everything else that have been put on the table to be achieved by 2030, when the United States takes a particular view on USA, on aid and everything else, and it's turned its back on the developing countries in general. So even that agenda of poverty alleviation on the global scale is going to be affected. Now, we had taken some pride, and rightly so, that at the G20, we became the voice of the global South, and we put on the agenda the priorities and interests of the global South. But United States Trump has no time for the global South. In fact, you know that for different reasons, the US Secretary of State is not attending the G20 foreign ministers meeting in South Africa, and is doubtful if Trump will attend the summit. The next presidency will be that of the United States. And I can't see Trump actually sympathizing with this agenda when one of his, I don't know if it was Rubio or somebody else, said the G20 agenda is too much DEI. The other thing is the whole issue of climate change. Now, it is something which concerns us very deeply. Whatever Trump does with regard to drill, baby, drill, or use coal now more and more, we have to worry about the effect of climate change on the Indian subcontinent and on us in particular. Now, the entire agenda in COP and everything else which we've been pushing is that there have to be massive transfers of funds and technology at affordable prices to the developing countries, so that they can go in for mitigation and adaptation and everything else. Now, this is not going to happen given the kind of attitude that Trump has. Then a few more things. One is that when the two biggest economic powers in the world start clashing with each other, and there's a threat of trade war, everybody is going to suffer. Now we are saying that we'll have opportunities. There may be some opportunities here and there, but it's not simply that that China has suffered these massive tariffs and immediately creates opportunities for us. I mean, we have to actually improve our own delivery system, our own manufacturing capacity, our ability to sell more to the United States. What is it that we can sell more to them, which will substitute for what they're getting from China? This is a very careful study one has to make. One can't talk in general terms that simply because China has been tariffed very highly, it creates opportunities for us. Look at Vietnam. 48% of its economy exports go to the United States or whatever. What have they offered? They have offered zero tariffs to United States, which United States is not accepting. What I mean is that other countries where we feel who have been tariffied, like Vietnam and others, may create opportunities for us, doesn't take into account that those countries also will reach out to the United States and strike deals. And therefore, the picture is not will become clear only after a considerable time as to how the whole thing pans out. Therefore, we should not start rejoicing too early that we got opportunities, because other countries are also going to negotiate with the United States, and that will have an impact on the opportunities that we think that there may be. On the Indo-Pacific, the Japanese and others are very worried about what Trump is doing. They are fearful that he might actually lose interest, or if not lose interest, he may take certain decisions which may create more security concerns for these East Asian powers. But let me also say what Singapore, I don't know if you've heard what Singapore Prime Minister said in a statement, extremely worried about what Trump has done. And he thinks it will be a body blow to Singapore, to small countries like Singapore. So I think we have to take a very rational view. The other thing is that if you look at the joint statement that was issued when our Prime Minister went there were a lot of positive things in that, no doubt about it. And we'll have to then see how we implement that. But look at the demands on the American side. If you look at the joint statement, it begins with defense. If you look at joint statements that we signed with all countries, defense comes somewhere in the middle or towards the end. But in this case, there are huge paragraphs on defense. And there's a lot of expectation and demands that in order to balance the deficit, India must buy more defense material. Now, we have problems. We can't go on splurging. We don't have the budget. We have to cut our cloth along, whatever the phrase is. And we're not going to buy F-35s, which they have put on the table. Then they want us to buy LNG from United States, which we can. Provided, of course, the price is all right and this and that. But on oil, which they want us to buy, I think it'll be much more difficult because the oil prices, the spot market and everything else functions. I'm not an oil expert, but I think on oil, I understand it will not be easy for us to buy more oil from the United States. But LNG, yes, we can do that. Then a couple of things is that there's going to be a neglect of Africa by the Americans, and this also is going to have a implication for global geopolitics, our own relations with Africa? Does then China get more space in Africa if the United States decides to reduce their presence in Africa? And then there is a larger question of Trump going back to 19th century kind of politics, wanting territory, renaming places, getting control of vital communication channels, and this and that and that. This sends a signal to the international system that if you are powerful, then you can take the risks and defy the United Nations Charter, the so-called rules-based order. So it depends on what your capacities are. And finally, we are living even now in a globalized world, and there are a lot of cross-cutting challenges. Now, if Europe and United States divorced each other, as the Europeans are saying that this is now the beginning of a divorce, it might create some opportunities for us because the Europeans may turn towards us as an alternative option, which is a good thing. And maybe the FTA and other things can be accelerated. But on the other hand, this will create a lot of disruption in the global system. And since we want to rise, we want to actually have more FDI, more transfer of technology. We want to improve our growth rates. We need a stable international order. We don't want these constant tensions and constant uncertainties, constant disruptions. And therefore, we have to take the totality in view and neither look at our Indo-US relations in a very narrow perspective and nor be too enthusiastic about the future. You have to be hard-headed. There will be very serious challenges ahead because what has happened is that Trump is totally disruptive. And one last point, Mr. Savio Rodigues mentioned that there's some similarity between Trump and Modi. When Modi wants to make India again, he's not destroying the international system at all. He wants to work within the international system. He wants to redirect the international system to take more cognizance of the global South and the interests of the global South and the whole development thing. He's very constructive. He's very constructive, full of ideas. He's not disruptive one bit. So I don't think we should go down the road and make these comparisons between Modi and Trump. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, for painting a very realistic picture, an objective, very level-headed assessment of not only bilateral, but also international geopolitics. So with the opening statements over, we have some time for moderated discussion, and I will sequentially ask each of the panelists some questions, starting with Savio Rodigues. So Savio, please unmute yourself. You're muted currently. You made a very passionate opening statement for India, US to come together, face the challenges and all. There was a guy by name Henry Kissinger. And Henry Kissinger made a very famous statement that we need to remember. And that statement was, it is dangerous to be America's enemy, but it is fatal to be America's friend. The current enthusiasm you showed about India-US relationship under Trump and Kissinger, who was a Republican Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, making that statement. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, that's a very, very important question. But let me just bring a very simple example and to really answer to the remark of Ambassador Sibal. Every disruption that has happened in this world, including if you look at the startup industry, a lot of people would have said at one point of time that restaurants and various other things are the old world order, as you would call it. And then you had a Swiggy and a Zomato that came in that redefined how people are supposed to eat, while people continue to go to a restaurant and eat.
Let's pertain to the question at hand and not go.
No, I'm
discussion.
I'm answering the question that you were asked itself. Now, the problem everybody seems to have, and I'm not taking Donald Trump's side, I'm primarily saying that Donald Trump is actually getting about doing disruption. The so-called world order that existed is what he's trying to change. And of course, there will be disruption. Anything that is in the old world order will face disruption, and there's going to be a reaction, and there's going to be strong reaction. Now, for us to consider and to look at various different permutations and combinations will arise out of our understanding of that situation. I look at it optimistically. I see an opportunity for us where maybe somebody else might not. That is the way the world is going to evolve. Because today, the way the world is transforming with technology, with innovation, changing geopolitical landscapes and paradigms, what we did 10 years ago is not what we're going to do 5 years from now. There was a time when people in the world were very averse to ideas like Islamic terrorism. Today, leaders are talking openly about it. So that disruption is going to happen. All we have to do as India is to be able to understand that like the Bible says, you keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closest. And that is what we need to do. We need to understand who's our friend, who's our enemy, and our enemies should also be kept close to us as our friends.
All right, Savio. I'll go to the next panelist, Mr. Neelavar. Dinesh, you've been in US for a long period of time. You're a prominent Indian American. You recall one Fed chairman, Alan Greenspan, talked about irrational exuberance of the stock market. And I see irrational exuberance about India-US relationship in Trump 2.0 era. Just remember how much irrational exuberance was at the time of signing of 123 civil nuclear agreement and what are the deliverables. So keep that in mind and then tell us what are the opportunities for India and US in terms of increasing the bilateral trade to mission 500, or for that matter, to mission 1 trillion. Keeping past in the focus.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Dr. Aditya. So let me start with challenges because my opening statement are more on optimistic projections. So challenges are, let me talk about internally, okay? So China has a long 30, 40 years of relationship with USA on trade. So there is a lobby. So there is a trade lobby and there are a lot of other lobbies inside America, okay? We have seen that, okay? Let's be very straightforward and very realistic. That lobby is so strong that India lobby does not even stand a chance. I'll be very frank on that. Our other esteemed panelists like Arun Sahgal talked about India not being pictured in the Indo-Pacific. This lobby, in one of the analysts, I'm not an expert, but one of the analysts, military analysts said that India does not even come in the picture of USA radar in a lot of these regions. Okay, Indo-Pacific and Quad may be there, but it is no significance at this point because these lobbies are much bigger. The trade with Southeast Asian nation, Japan, China is so big, multiple times. India does not even have a picture. Okay, I'll be very frank. The previous administration, okay, Democrats and the Republicans. So there is an internal politics inside America, which is also defining the Indo-USA relationship. So the Democratic Party is going through a lot of transformation. The Republican Party is going through Trumpistic evolution. Okay, so a lot of things are changing. So you have to look at that. America is changing internally, and Trump main focus is internal, more than external actually. But that internal focus is actually impacting the world. So I'm giving you some real information here. And we need to understand how the internal changes happening inside United States, and we need to calibrate the India-US relationship. And this is very critical. Nobody talks about it. So the internal relation we saw, Georgie, Department of Government Efficiency, there are a lot of changes in the State Department in various news we get in various departments and how they are doing the cost cutting, changes in their global presence. All these are to take care of their internal debt situation and financial problems and all those situations. Okay, they still have the power because it's a large economy. They can dictate. So at this point, there is nobody to challenge, no group of nations to challenge America's complete dominance in the world history. It has never happened in 100 years. Even British India did not, British Empire did not have this kind of dominance. So we have to accept the fact. How to go about it? Well, I may not be the person to talk about it, but we'll have to take it from bit by bit and small steps. So in the realistically in the trade era, India has got a very bad deal in the last 50 years. We know, everybody knows about it. But now India has moved up in the last 10 years. Now an opportunity is there. We need to move. Of course, there will be challenges. There will be a lot of trade, and America will put unilateral conditions on India alone. Okay, IPR, agriculture, a lot of tech. If you don't notice that tech, there are a lot of restrictions. They're not allowing many things inside India. I am part of Karnataka Entrepreneurs Association. We have set up operations in India and USA. So we see a lot of restrictions. There are a lot of things which are still not allowed. So they will come hard on that. But we need to maneuver around all these things to still do the business. And we are doing it with whatever we can, whatever which is allowed. But a trade pact, official trade pact, helps us. This is the first president talking about a bilateral trade pact which has never been discussed by any president. That is the good hope. It's a hope only, but to execute it and to come up to a $500 billion, it's a big challenge. But that small ray of hope of tariff tariff war. I will not call it a war. It is more of a global order change. And China being a dominant, not only dominant, it's a bully uh, in the trade area, being cut to size is a critical part of this change. So India will have some opportunity, and we have to take the maximum opportunity. It is not going to be easy. There is many structural changes inside India, ability to move fast and logistics, already discussed by our ambassador. A lot of these things are yet to change. So we have to move fast. It will take some time, but we have to do our best. But luckily, the government is getting ready for a lot of new changes, so that is good. But it's not going to be easy because other countries are going to come in. We don't have a presence. There is no trade lobby inside America for India. And this bilateral trade agreement will create a trade lobby in a small way, which will then be able to big enough to handle other lobbies, which are China and a lot of other lobbies. And then that trade lobby will be the biggest lobby for India over and above other things. Of course, military lobby, military relationship is there no matter what. But without a trade lobby, India does not have a chance. Trade lobby can handle a lot of the discussions and a lot of differences and all the stuff. We don't have it.
Thank you,
Trade
Dinesh. You have made your point.
Thank you.
Move on to the next question, and it goes to Brigadier Arun Sahgal. Brigadier Sahgal, you mentioned that US may not involve with a hot war with China, keeping in mind that United States is retreating at this point in time globally, and China has a very powerful armed forces. I see slightly a different point of view. US is becoming expansionist in the Western Hemisphere, wanting to go militarily take over Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal. And as a quid pro, Trump administration may allow Russian Federation to take over part of Ukraine, three Baltic states, without challenge from United States or NATO for that matter. And in Indo-Pacific and so-called South China Sea, cut out a deal with Communist China to have Chinese hegemony over South China Sea, as well as in Taiwan Strait. Do you envisage this kind of transactional geopolitical trend coming in next couple of years?
The short answer is it's a possibility that can take place, but there is one caveat. The caveat is he's not a fool looking at Greenland just like that. The Greenland issue is basic issue relates to a first time direct continental challenge to continental US. Opening of the Arctic route would provide Chinese and the Russians working together a direct challenge to continental US. I mean, if Greenland is not part of the American territory, if Greenland is neutral, and as it is, or it should be, then the Arctic route can be exploited by the so-called what they call the dragon bear, as people call them. The dragon bear can then pose a direct challenge to continental US. I strongly urge my friend Stephen Rosen's article in Foreign Affairs, when he has talked about the realignment of American power and looking at creating more assets at home for national home security than putting in all the eggs in the international basket. So see, this is an important issue. This is also like Ambassador Sibal talked about, the fact is that this is making people in Asia very concerned. And today we have a situation where the deterrence, standoff deterrence, which is being provided by the United States to these powers like Korea and Japan, extended deterrence, sorry, not standard, extended deterrence, which is being provided, is not being acceptable. The Koreans are openly talking about going nuclear. We are in the midst of a couple of internal discussions where we are looking at the third global nuclear age, where instead of looking at in non-proliferation, we are looking at a new proliferation system that is taking place, and that is making these countries to also look at their security from a different perspective. See what has happened in Japan. Japan has given up the idea of a 1,000-kilometer zone and has said that they will acquire offensive weapon system for the security of Japan. No range is mentioned. Tomahawk missiles have been included in that. And Tomahawk missiles have been given to the Japanese over and above, overriding the MTCR concerns. So what we are looking at is there's a huge amount of shifts that there is taking place. And there is a perception, particularly in the US administration, because when I read the testimonies of my friend Elbridge Colby and party, when they were going into the nomination, see what they are talking about. They're asking the poor Taiwan to increase their defense budget by 10%. What will 10% of defense budget do to Taiwan, a small little country? I mean, that's the kind of mindset that is emerging. We have to be very careful of that. My last point to you is on this issue is, there's somebody mentioned about, I think you mentioned, Mr. Narkar mentioned about the American trade in Southeast Asia is nothing as compared to the American, to the Chinese. Chinese have $900 billion of trade with ASEAN. ASEAN countries are totally under the Chinese trade umbrella. You saw what happened the other day when Rembi was transferred as a show of a counter to SWIFT. In 7 seconds, money was transferred from the Central Bank of China to the Central Bank of Indonesia, ensuring all regulatory mechanisms were agreed to and were acceptable, and that's how it went through. So what we are looking at is, it's not only the question of trade, its question is we are going to look at closely at BRICS, what's going to happen. And that's going to be another area where India will have to take a call. But India is right now pushing rightly through that de-dollarization is not in our interest. I agree with it, de-dollarization is not in our interest. But fundamental changes will take place, and those changes will push for us to have a relook at it. Because if, like the ambassador says, African countries are going to be out of the system, large number of Middle Eastern countries are out of the system, and they are not going to be acceptable to this, then what is going to be? And also, please note, BRICS today is not a question of 9 countries. BRICS today is also 15 partners, and which includes ASEAN countries. Indonesia and Thailand are partners of that. So please, there is a change taking place, and we have to be very realistic in trying to understand this change and not just carried away by statements made, etc., including my own leaders. I don't accept their statements in the way, because then I have to relate it to what the documents say, what has been actually achieved on the ground. I see there is a lot of disparity. So you're right. But Greenland is an issue for the security of the continental US and not of the global order. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier Sahgal. My next question goes to Ambassador Kanwal Sibal. And I would rather like to go into the narrow US-India relationship and the 36-point joint communique that was signed. And you already said that India is not going to buy F-35s. Will India consider purchasing the small modular nuclear reactors from Halted as part of this thing? Does it make sense for India to purchase nuclear reactors from US when US has not really built any major nuclear reactors domestically for last 30, 35 years, except for 2 in Atlanta, Georgia? Does this whole suggestion buying nuclear reactors from US make sense for India?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that I forget the exact target that we have announced in terms of building up our nuclear capacity in a few years. It's a very sizable target because we want to move into a green economy. And the best way to do it is also to increase our nuclear energy production. Number two, we want to now give the private sector a role in developing our nuclear power plants. In the space area, we've done that. We want to do it in the nuclear area. And the feeling is that when private money comes in, we'll be able to accelerate the program. Though in terms of running the system, the nuclear power plants and all that the DEA will continue to do so because they're very vital security issues, safety issues involved. So this is the general background. The third thing is that we want to be, as far as possible, Atmanirbhar. And in this area, despite years and years of sanctions by the United States, we achieved a huge progress on our own in developing our nuclear sector. Huge. We've not been able to implement Bhabha's program of thorium and everything else, fast breeder reactors, but we are working on that. So there's a deeper resistance within the system. That's something that we have built up on our own and successfully. Should we then not go down that path and let the foreign players come in the area that you mentioned, or should we ourselves develop small modular nuclear reactors. Now, there's a view that in any case, our small reactors, 225 megawatt reactors, are small reactors. So whether they can be modified in a way that we can develop our small modular reactors on our own. The fourth is that the only two small modular reactors that are working internationally anywhere are in Russia, one offshore and one onshore. And the Russians are offering us this technology. They want to offer this to us. And they make the point, I was in Moscow recently, and they make the point that which is the country which is actually cooperating with you in the nuclear sector currently? It is Russia. The rest talk, but have they actually done anything on the ground? And we've been working together for so many years, and we have something to offer, and we can collaborate with you, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's a decision government has to take who they want to partner with. Number 5, you've seen that already there's a big pushback by people like Kakodkar,
Yes.
who are writing op-eds and this and that, opposing this step to go in for external collaboration for a small modular reactor. So there will be a resistance within the system. So we'll have to then see how we can reconcile different views in the system. And finally, Holtec, I don't know how much their technology has been proven, because there is no small modular reactor that is working in the United States or anywhere. So yes, it is an offer. It can be pursued. It can be examined, and keep the pot boiling, because this is what the United States wants. In fact, it's in the joint statement. So it could be a diplomatic ploy that we are working down that road. But I'm not personally convinced that either it is wise or it would be possible or desirable to develop small modular reactors through foreign collaboration when we have our own capacities to do so.
Thank you, Ambassador Sibal. Now I'll go to questions from audience, and before I start reading them, in the member of audience, we have another diplomat sitting, and that is Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. And I will invite Ambassador Kapoor to give a couple of comments on this whole topic, because he was a diplomat for Government of India. Ambassador Kapoor, can you come on the platform, please?
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, it is always a great pleasure to listen to such distinguished panelists. And having been a colleague and having worked with Ambassador Sibal, it's a great honor, to listen to him again. What I'd like to say is the following: that in terms of India-US relations, which is the topic we have been discussing, and we have heard the views of the distinguished panelists. I think currently my view is that we are at a good place. It is not going to be an easy ride, but it's going to be a sort of phase where we can, steadily deepen the content of our relations in different areas. We can expand cooperation in the areas where it has been going slow, and we can hasten it up. We can, also increase the ambit of the content in many ways. But we have to also understand one very crucial fact. That is, there is a lot of overlap between the breaking India forces currently and the breaking US forces to a very great degree. And, if you talk about Islamic terrorism or political jihad or China or any of these issues which are affecting India significantly, also affecting the US. So, as one of the panelists mentioned, that the two biggest threat perceptions are from Islamic jihad and from China. So similarly for India, there are other factors, of course, which are specific to both the sides. Even the internal, people in the woke side, etc., for example, or the extreme liberals who create a lot of disruptions in the society internally. So those sort of factors are also there. But for both these countries to dig in, and now with the visit of Vice President J.D. Vance, forthcoming visit in the next few days, I think around April 21st, the visit will start, along with his wife Usha Chilukuri Vance. It will be another opportunity to revisit a lot of issues, to discuss in detail, to discuss in depth, to see what are the common challenges facing both our countries, and also the common challenges facing the democratic world, for example, and how to cope with those challenges jointly. We also have to see whether we want to, while some of the panelists mentioned about the uh, great extent of our defense cooperation, but in my opinion, I think a time has come for us to also look at that also a little more closely, with India expanding its footprint in defense exports, defense manufacturing, and the rate has to go up much more. Now, do we also want to relook at Quad? Quad, the first paper on Quad was written by me when I was in Cambodia. And the concept which I had, the perception which I had was that this would be more of a security grouping, because the challenges which China was posing to the world would not be possible for any of these countries to be able to manage individually or by smaller groupings. So it had to be a slightly bigger grouping. Now, how do we refocus the defense aspect of Quad, the security aspect of Quad, the geostrategic aspects of Quad, the geopolitical aspects of Quad? That is also going to be important. Plus, whether India wants to get into some sort of a defense partnership, which is even more stronger than what we have already, is another area which we should explore. We are doing a lot together, but I think we could do a lot more together. About the defense purchases from the US, those will have to go through all those channels of evaluation, and see whether it's a good fit or not a good fit. And although in those areas we have to maintain our autonomy and strategic independence, but in many areas of science, technology, space, astronomy, defense, where we are already engaged, we need to make it more substantial, more meaningful, and more outcome oriented. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Kapoor. I'll take just a couple of questions from the audience. So there is a comment from Mr. Vijay Nilekani, and basically he's saying there's a good chance that People's Republic of China will be number one superpower in next 4 years. Any comment from any of the panelists? It's open to any of the panelists.
Yeah, I will take it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is more of a media-based comments coming out everywhere. The old world order is trying to push China, as Mr. Kapoor has said. So, target of Trump is to bring down China. Okay, it will happen. It's more of an illusion of China becoming a big threat worldwide, but it is regional power. It will hit countries in the bully. If you, I read Robert Kaplan, who was an analyst of United States. He has many books in 1995. What he said was, in Foreign Affairs, he had an article. It says that China will become such a big thing that it will start creating trouble across Southeast Asia, across the Asian continent or Eurasian continent. And all the countries will come together and then join America and then tackle China. See, this was their strategy 30 years ago. Okay, Western, the strategy 30, 40 years ago. But it has not turned out that way. Independently, India is able to tackle, of course, up to a certain level. And then Japan is building its forces. But with the trade, see, Trump is not going on a military challenge against China, which is not needed, actually. It is the global system under which China grew up in the World Trade Organization, with all its, bullying and cheating and everything in the agreements. It has built up by cutting its hands and cutting its legs and different options, China can be brought down. Of course, there will be challenges and how they're behaving. They're saying they're not going to back out and all that stuff because there's a big lobby. And this lobby, it is the Break India Force and this globalist lobby are coming together. They're all in it together. And they're all in it together. And they don't want India to rise up. And they're sitting inside America also with the Democratic Party. So there is this huge thing which Trump is trying to handle it. He cannot handle it himself. LIBOR has been removed out of the US banking system, they say in 2022, but it is not happening. It's very difficult to change the old order, old, British Empire sitting there in financial
Thank you, Dinesh,
capital
for
market.
your
Yeah. So,
answer.
but anyway, the question is answered.
I'll ask Brigadier Sahgal who wants to say something on this particular question. Brigadier Sahgal.
Okay, see, we have to be pragmatic on this issue. We have a problem. China is our neighbor. United States is a strong global player across many seas. Now, if we have also want to understand what is the American influence in Asia. Let me disabuse people to understand that American economic and trade influence in Asia is declining, particularly as far as ASEAN is concerned. Just go and look at the figures. As far as its military influence is concerned, I talked about the fact of the way how it outlines in the region. From Indian perspective, we have a strong economy in our neighborhood. We have a strong economy in a neighborhood with whom we do not have good relations. So the dilemma for us is, how do we handle that? Do we continue to depend on the United States of America, build up a strong economic partnership, rest? Do we build it that strong economic partnership against China, or do we take China into account while building our relationship with? Is China a player in our economic rise? Can we continue to look at China as an outlier in our economic rise? That's the issue Indians have to face. I don't expect you people sitting in the United States to worry about, but we have to face this. And I, frankly speaking, to me, it makes sense for us to, despite the fact that we have a border issue with the Chinese, which has not escalated ever beyond a particular point, we also have to recognize that fact. We have a strong economy with a huge amount of technological and other capacities and capabilities, with whom we have $132 billion of trade. How do we handle that? Do we continue to consider it as a pariah, or we continue to engage with it? That's our dilemma. Like we continue to engage with the United States, and tomorrow we will like to have a continue to deal with the European Union if it comes into power. Look at what is happening between Spain and China, and how EU is breaking ranks. EU is now going back to China. They said, okay, we have had a strong relationship. We have this problem of dumping of the EV vehicles, but it's an economy which has helped us build up. Who allowed Germany to grow? It was investments in China which made Germany a strong economic power. So we need to be, these are issues that we have to sort out between ourselves in India. It's not an issue of United States versus China or for us. It is how to leverage strong economies globally to our interests. I think that's some basic issue that we need to be looking at.
Thank you very much indeed. We have run out of time and we are exceeding the time, so I will stop the discussion here. My heartfelt thanks to Mr. Savio Rodigues, Mr. Dinesh Neelavar, Brigadier Arun Sahgal, and Ambassador Kanwal Sibal for taking their precious 1.5 hour time on a Saturday where they could be doing other nice things to participate in the roundtable discussion. My heartfelt thanks to our audience members also. And finally, My thanks to Team CSA, Mr. Ripudaman Pachauri and Mr. Rajiv Verma, who work behind the scenes to make this kind of events possible for me to organize. Just I will end with one announcement. Next Saturday, April 19, we have a distinguished lecture from Professor Yoichiro Sato, who will be talking about Japanese response to what is happening with US global tariff war, how Japanese are tackling with that. So that's the advance announcement. With that announcement, I thank everyone with folded hand. Thank you very much indeed, and hope to see you again in our future programs. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you and good
Thank you.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay.